everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Psychic Explorer. How are you? It's May. It's May's guest episode, and today I have the wonderful Kelsey Anderson talking to you about travel and intuition. It's a lovely conversation which I hope you are going to get something from. You may or may not know that I am travel obsessed. My wanderlust I class as an incurable disease. It is just something within me which I cannot get rid of, and I love it. There's nothing better for me than getting on a plane and just taking me away to some other place. Not that I don't love where I live, not that I don't enjoy where I am, but there's something about going to somewhere which is so foreign, so alien, so strange, and absorbing a part of that culture to bring it back home with me. Like myself, Kelsey is travel obsessed. Her and her family have just come back from a massive adventure. They moved from the US, went to live in Scotland, and then they tried a bit of England, and they've just come back from living in Croatia. Now that is fantastic. However, the really amazing part is when I tell you almost none of it was planned. Kelsey just had this guiding intuition within her and went with it. So if you think this episode is about comparing notes about where we went, I went here, you went there, absolutely not. This conversation is all about intuition and the effect of exploring our world can have on our spirituality and our practices. We also cover how total trust in one's intuition can affect those around us, like spouses, and how this newly found guidance might affect the dynamics of a relationship. In this conversation about travel, it might seem irrelevant to spirituality, but everything we talk about relates to life in some way. So I'm not going to go on much longer, but just to say a big thank you to Kelsey for trusting me with what you had to say about exploring life and our world. But also, just if you say nothing else from this conversation, just be in awe of Kelsey's ability to be able to just completely trust in her intuition and go with the flow. We could all take a lot of lessons from what Kelsey has to teach us. So without further ado, here is the wonderful Kelsey Anderson. Kelsey, it is so good to see you. How are you?
I am really wonderful in the sense of just being here, enjoying this energy, really just appreciating the connection that we are having or will have in this hour. I just feel delighted, to share this space with you.
Well, we've been speaking on Instagram, direct messaging for a little while now. I came across your wonderful podcast, Soul Threads, probably, I want to say about a year ago, actually. So it's been bubbling in the back of my background. I've listened to lots and lots of episodes. I love your calm energy that you bring. And even talking to you today, I was just saying to you before we were recording, oh my God, I'm so hectic. Like my brain is everywhere and I've been having a really, really hectic day. And you're just like the essence of Zen. It's so soothing to listen to. How do you find that? How do you find that center? Is that just you? Have you always been that way?
I feel like the core of my soul energy has probably been that way, but my experience in this human form in this life has not been that way until the last couple years. And it wasn't ever a purposeful intention, but what happened is when I started speaking my truth and going into this work as a medium and energy intuitive, that I actually just fell into this energy where it's more embodied, I think. So it feels more natural and less performative than earlier parts of my life.
I think I need to still move into that part of me. I'm not there yet.
It's a daily work. It's a daily practice. Don't worry.
Yeah. I wanted to speak with you, Kelsey, because you have just come back from a mega, I would consider at least a mega life adventure, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love travel. I gather you love travel as well.
Very much.
And when I go away, I like to take my microphone with me, record random sounds, and take my deck of tarot or my oracle cards with me and do a little reading for the listeners. And I love taking people with me. And I just find that getting away from my life is such, it's not necessarily an escape, but it certainly shows me other ways of being and actually allows me to get back to me.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling the dear listeners about your adventure that you've just come back from?
Absolutely. And it is a massive adventure, and I do feel the same way about travel. And I think that's part of the beauty of this conversation is how it weaves into our lives and why we're drawn to it, like on a soul level. But to give you the more condensed version, we left America. We were in Washington State. I have a son. So my husband, my son, and I, and our 2 cats. So we brought our 2 cats with us along on this adventure. And I have the privilege of having dual citizenship in the UK. So we went to Scotland and to the Highlands. I fell in love with Fares, which is this little town on the Moray coast right outside of the Highlands on the North Sea. And so we just moved there on a whim. We didn't have a place to live. We didn't have housing. We just showed up and said, I'm going to trust that this is all going to work out for me.
Wow.
And over the months, we were planning to stay there, but intuitively life took us other directions. And so we spent some time down near Birmingham. And then we also ended up following we were in more like Worcester area, but
it's better. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
But listen, I just scrunched up my face. And the second that Kelsey said Birmingham, I went, oh dear.
Which is so interesting because from an outside perspective, we found the beauty in it. Like we had heard some opinions and things, and we ended up just having these delightful experiences in and around Birmingham, and just between women's circles. And I did some residence weeks in mediumship while I was in the UK. In that time, I actually went to Bali for a bit and came back. And then we ended up following our heart to Croatia, to the Adriatic Sea. So it was all in all about 8.5 months. And our goal each step of the way was to obtain visas and stay. And each step we kept getting redirected. And we just realized that we were being redirected back to the United States, which we had said we would never come back. And here we are living back in Montana, in Western Montana, in this beautiful little mountain town that we've lived in for 10 years on and off. And something about this mountain town just our hearts couldn't let go of it. Like it just drew us back. And so living an intuitively guided life, or trusting that is for sure not our last time with Scotland or living there or being there. It just was meant to be. You know, when you go on adventures, when you travel or when you move, I think the human mind always says, this is permanent. This is my place I'm going to land, and this is where I'm going to stay. And we caught ourselves really having that permanent mindset, but life, intuition, and my spirit team had other plans for that evolving. And so then we went, okay, what if this isn't permanent? What if it's just a big grand adventure and we see where it goes?
I think many people get so caught up in the everyday, what about mortgages, what about work, what about this, what about that? And forgive me for saying this, I'm sure you've heard this many times, but it's so brave of you, especially with a young family too, to just trust that gut instinct that it's going to be okay. And lo and behold, It is. It works out perfect.
It does. And it actually is okay to feel brave. Like, you know, sometimes we don't claim that for ourselves or say, wow, I was being really courageous or really brave or a little bit overly optimistic even and trusted. But it does, coming off of it, it does feel that way. And it is really nice to trust yourself, trust your spirit team, trust the information you're getting, and then it all works out for you. And to have that proven over and over again, I think is really delightful, because it rewires your brain a little bit. It rewires the way you look at life.
It's funny, you say this, and I'm reflecting on my own life, and I've always just gone for it. If it feels good, just go for it, and it will always work out no matter what. I've never, I mean, this sounds really cocky, and touch wood, but I've never been in dire straits. We have quit our day jobs and we went to live in France ourselves. It didn't work out, but what an experience we had. And when we came back, we were in a different place and different position that we thought, actually, we don't want to be where we were. We want to be somewhere different. And we came and settled here, and we were able to buy our own house. We would never have been able to afford to buy a house where we were. So it's just this domino effect of trusting your instinct, going with it and trusting that it's going to be okay. And this is what I really want to talk to you today about, Kelsey. Your utter trust in your intuition. And this comes up so many times in your podcast, but also with travel. And I want to really delve into how travel affects you. But before we go there, would you mind just sharing with the listeners and myself, actually, because I don't know this story yet.
Sure.
What is your background? What is your mediumship journey? We all have one. Where did you start? And was there a catalyst that opened your door?
Yeah. I actually love being able to share this because it is such an interesting evolution. I think of, again, trusting, the full trust and flow. So as a child, I was extra sensory perceptive. I would share that. But the adult system schooling, it just isn't designed to support a young child saying, I see the spirit of someone in my house. And that door shut really early, but I was always very sensitive. I'm neurodiverse. I'm very sensitive to, all my senses feel very expansive, even as a child. But I coped a lot in college and beyond by just trying to be really normal, like that neurotypical, shutting it all down, living that career life. And so I just said, okay, I'm going to focus all my energy and set a goal to become a corporate business management consultant. And I went to school for my, bachelor's and master's. I just really, and I achieved that, and it was empty. And I loved the people I worked with, and I loved the work I got to do that actually was impactful. But as I reached that goal right around that time, my whole life was like, this is not your path. There's something here that is missing. I could feel it in my whole soul, my whole body. And so I just ended up, because it was such a dark night of the soul, such a part of that spiritual awakening, I got really curious. So Reiki was my entry into all of this. And then really loved Reiki, had a small Reiki practice for a bit. And then I remember being in this group. It was Advanced Energy Intuition. I was in for a couple of years with this amazing teacher. And one day we did a class on mediumship. And I remember feeling the presence of that first person come through in a normal context, meaning like in a class context, not out in the world, and being like, I felt this before. This is what I've been feeling this whole time. And the puzzle pieces just click, 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 or the gears, I should say, clicked all together. And then it was that point of mediumship where the floodgates opened a little bit too much, where I remember, I know this is very personal, but I think you'll appreciate how this happens. I was getting a massage, and I remember just feeling like I couldn't enjoy the massage because this woman's grandmother was in the room with us and really talkative. And that's when I went, okay, I need to learn about this. Like, I need to learn how to connect with the spirit world, have boundaries with this. And I just have been in the pursuit of it ever since. I quit my corporate job, never looked back on that, and made a complete life shift, all while being with a partner who knew me a certain way and was like, okay, we're going this way. And honestly, getting to know this whole new identity and version, which is who I've become. And motherhood was a big portal to that too. I'm very open in that time. And so I had to actually just learn how to navigate that with some tough times, some grace, some ease. But overall, it was just this goal was never mine, and my soul's asking me to do something else.
Beautiful. We're recording this in February. I was listening to your most recent episode yesterday, and you were saying that you've lived in almost all 50 states. You've done loads of different jobs. You do talk about having this utter trust in that everything will be okay in your intuition. Where does that come from? How did you find that, and how do you sustain that?
The depth of that question feels so resonant, and I'm like listening for what's coming up because I feel like something in me wants to speak beyond what my cognitive mind wants to say. If I'm being just full on honest, which I always try to be, but mostly with myself in this moment too, I feel that I ignored it to a point where life got so hard and so tough and so troublesome and so dark that there was no other way but to figure out why, and then to reconnect with that part of myself that I'd shut down for so long. And the minute I started doing that and honestly coming back into the connection never left, but it had to keep getting louder and louder and louder for me to listen. And finally it got to a point where I said, this isn't working. Life isn't working. It's not supposed to be like this. And that's when I started listening again. And when I started building that trust of like, I got a little, oh, maybe I shouldn't, order that drink because it's not actually one I prefer. It's not one my body even likes, right? Like I shouldn't. That happened when I quit drinking alcohol or changed foods and all of these things. When I started listening to what my body and my intuition and myself was telling me, that's when my life got honestly magical. And it went from very dark and very hard to everything's actually working out for me and my life is magic. And then I knew, okay, this is what it's supposed to be like, at least in my experience of this life. This is our human birthright. This is what we get to experience. And maybe part of the experience is being told it's not, moving through that and coming back to it for a lot of people so that they can recognize that it actually can be this way.
Mm. So you took that forward literally with everything that you do.
Yeah.
Amazing. You were saying that your husband, it was like sort of getting to know you again. How did that go down? Because I'm really curious, because listeners will know that my other half, Simon, doesn't believe in any of this stuff. Just because where this has stemmed from for me, there's like question marks over, is this real or is there something else going on?
Sure.
I presume that was not your case and he was like fully on board with it.
Mm-mm.
No, he wasn't. Okay, so how did this work out then?
Let's dish. I will say I hear your experience so deeply, and the mediums I know and the people that I'm in circle with have a very similar experience, that their other half is with them in it, meaning they're there and they're still in the relationship, but it's kind of this piece that doesn't get talked about a lot, or they don't believe it, or there's not a lot of interest in it. And you can't force that on anybody. They have to decide what they will let in spiritually in their own time, which is really hard. But effectively, I feel grateful that he's open-minded and curious. And I think at first he was like, "That's cool." It's a little weird, but that's cool. And then it kind of went to, "You seem really happy." And then it went to, by you doing this and being in it and all these experiences, it became too hard to ignore the feedback or the connections. I had a reading I did with one of his friends where something came through so strongly. It was about like a uniform and his grandfather. And when I was describing it, the friend went into the closet and said, "This uniform," and I think there was moments like that with my husband where he went, "Okay, I'm listening." Like you can't make that up. And then it was, "You seem really happy. You're a great spouse." Like, even compared to what I was, like, I just was kinder, more empathetic, I think, trying to be more loving because I was more in tune with myself. And I do think that helped evolve it. But we always say we've dated 6 or 7 different people within our marriage because we're both always evolving, and you have to get to know that person again and then say, do I like them? Do I want to be with them every time? And that's something that isn't talked about as much in spiritual evolution within partnership.
It's an episode that I've been playing with, actually, sort of a guest episode, but with Simon, with himself. I don't know if he'd be up for it. Part of me is like, I don't want to know how he feels about it, because it's like if he completely thinks there's a load of mumbo jumbo, it's sort of like it's such a big part of my life now that I'm like, oh, that's scary if he thinks that. But you're right, relationships, they go through seasons, and you need to learn to live with each other over and over again.
Over and over, especially in the context of these things that are not as mainstream or talked about, and they're not as socialized. I do feel though that in the context of all of this, there was a time in our recent human history where this wouldn't have been as strange or odd. And I think it would have been talked about even in childhood. And I think about this with my own child. He's so socialized to trusting himself, to listening to his body, to his intuition, that it wouldn't be strange for him to have a partner in life that would have abilities open up. But because we live in the, society and structures we've grown up in, it can take a lot more expanding to accept that, I think, for people. And everyone's on their own journey, but it is hard. And it can be kind of interesting too, because sometimes you see their curiosity peak and go from that's a load of whatever to, oh, do you want to tell me about it? And I think that's a beautiful evolution, that curiosity.
Yeah. If this is chiming with listeners, I did interview last month Nat Lockett, and she is bringing her children up with these gifts. Her children are realizing these gifts. She has had this her whole life, and her husband is not natural to him, but he is open to it and he has experienced stuff. What Nat says is just try and make it as normal as possible, because the more you make it weird or odd, the more you do want to shut it down.
Oh, I love that. And I can't wait to listen to that episode. That feels so I just like feel it landing like, ooh.
Okay, let's get on to travel, shall we?
Oh, sure.
We've established that you follow your instincts, you follow your gut. Dare I ask, what made you just pack up and go? Say, right, we're going to Scotland, we're going. How did that happen?
So I am blessed with the neurodivergent gift of impulsivity, which helps a little, because what I find is when it is intuitively aligned and you close the gap between action or decision and like there's momentum, right? Decision and action, then you don't have time for your brain to second guess your intuition. And I'm not saying that our brains aren't wildly important for our existence, because they absolutely are. I find, though, that that's where all of the programming, doubts, fears, right? That's where all of that likes to get in. But if my decision to action is short, to close the gap, that's when the magic happens. And so I went on I would say a bit of a soul-searching solo trip to Scotland, and fell so deeply in love with this place that I said, I have to live there. And I had a vision board that was full of every single photo from the Highland Cruise to the, every place I would want to be. And then I looked at it one day, and we had an opportunity where my husband had a gap in what he was doing, and we had the resources saved up, and we had a lease ending at exactly that date. And I looked around our life and I went, we're going. We're just going to go. And he was like, oh, okay, we'll go. And so we sold every bit of our belongings. We just had our suitcases, said goodbye.
11 of them. There are 11 suitcases. It's from the last episode that you put out. I was shocked to hear that. I can only imagine the horror that the check-in agent saw as you came up to the desk.
There was a lot of that. And to be honest, we were like, this is way too much stuff. Like, we were like, this, never again. Like, never. The reason we brought them is because we thought we'd be living years and years and years in Scotland. So why buy like linens and pillows and things over? So then we just ended up carting them around everywhere. And they were so good about it. But we definitely learned, like, still stuff, that much stuff. And that was only a fraction of what you own in a household. So it's very interesting, 11 suitcases and 2 cats and a child. So granted, one of those suitcases was completely toys. We just said, you can pack whatever you can fit in this suitcase.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you on purpose.
No, it's okay.
Just when you said that in your last episode, that really struck. I thought, wow, that's a lot of baggage.
Yeah, metaphorically and figuratively, all of that.
Absolutely,
is a lot of baggage.
Yeah.
So I think we were talking a little bit about how that happened. It was impulsive, but it was a vision board. So I looked up and just went, I'm going to make this happen. And it did. And so I went, oh my gosh, literally is everything has aligned for this one day, this one moment, this 1 week. And it was the same concept of how we came back to Montana. When we made the decision, we had like 2.5 or 3 weeks from what I remember between deciding to move to Scotland and leaving and selling everything. So it was a very short amount of time between the two. And I find that when I move, not hustle, not hectic either, like not from chaos, but from assuredness, that is when you just trust.
When you're on the road, life can be freeing, it can be chaotic. I wonder how travel affected your gifts. Did you notice any dips or revving up of your connection?
Oh, yeah. So when it's all of it, and when we're in the travel of chaos, the making flights, the getting it, I find that my inner world, my calm and just centering and grounding, it requires a lot more nervous system support, a lot more of that. But I find that mediumistically and stuff, that feels pretty shut off when there's tons of chaos and overwhelm. But the minute we land somewhere, it's expansion. And so we decided early on, when we knew we weren't going to be obtaining visas, that we would use this as a time for me to expand my frame of reference for mediumship. That's actually how we positioned it as a family. Because when you're in new cultures, new places, and I'm curious how, I really would love to hear how this is for you too. When you're traveling and your world is expanding, you're meeting new people, new foods, sights, smells, tastes. The wind in Scotland carried more messages than I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, I just would sit with the wind and just receive. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. I find that you can actually then connect with more people when they come to you. Like, the spirit world will connect you with more people. So I was able to read for people in Scotland, in the UK, in Portugal, and some other places. And even in Croatia, you're learning new words, new language. And that allows you to then have someone in the spirit world come through and expand your frame of reference. And it ended up really being like that. So there were dips. There were definitely dips. There were really hard weeks. We were living in a 425 square foot caravan as a family of 3 with 2 kids in the Highlands in a field. So that is where we ended up being guided to. And I loved it. I loved it. And it was wild. It was absolutely wild.
What month was this? Well, what time of year was this?
It was the best time of year to be doing that. It was May through September, October.
And this was last year, right?
Yeah. 2025, yeah.
So apparently, summer 2025 for summer in Scotland last year was just phenomenal. Like, they'd never had such a good summer.
Amazing. And I'm like, how did we land here for the best 6 months that they've had in such a long time of summer? I mean, I just felt like the luckiest human alive to be doing that, especially in a living situation like that, where you're just really almost just enough walls to have the elements out. But the minute you wake up, you're kind of just outside your door.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. I love that you brought in frame of reference. For me, it's not a case of if I go abroad, if I go somewhere, it's a new symbol, it's a new experience for me to translate for someone that I'm reading for. But what, for me at least, traveling does, especially in ancient places, connecting with the earth, connecting with ancient churches and temples in Asia or whatever it might be, this conditioning that we have, it's all bollocks. Like, it doesn't matter. We've been here for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. And the things that we are so focused on in our lives, really, when you strip it all back, it really doesn't matter. It's about the connections that we make, the rhythms of the earth that vibrate. For me, it just opens up a new world and allows me to step into it. It doesn't necessarily allow me to ramp up my spiritual abilities, but it allows me to connect to a calmer, more peaceful, maybe not more peaceful, but a more simple time that I think we all yearn for.
I really do feel that. And thank you for sharing that. And also what you said about the symbol library was so powerful, just the way that the visual of that, for like, yes, that's exactly what it is. It's allowing ourselves to have new things we can reference, and these symbols, we understand what they mean for us so that we can help other people understand what it means for them with their loved one. And there is that something ancient where you just feel this is where my human is supposed to be spending more time. I remember walking through this path through the woods and going down to the river, and I did it a couple times. And honestly, coming from that American, even though we had kind of rejected hustle culture for a long time and rejected some things, coming from that way of just kind of going quickly, it really allowed us to slow down. And I remember walking through the woods and turning and saying, there's a building under that. I think it was like ivy or something, and peering through it. And I felt like I was in the secret garden, and I was discovering this old school building that was just, and I just thought, this is in the middle of the woods and we can just be doing this. We can just be doing this. It's amazing.
Are you inspired yet? I certainly am. I thank Kelsey from the bottom of my heart. And I know I said this earlier on, but honestly, re-listening to this just makes me think we all just need to listen to ourselves so much more. The path of life could be so much more interesting if we all just follow that intuition, that instinct, to be just that bit more brave and courageous than we otherwise normally would. Okay, quick self-promotion. You can find me at the.psychic.explorer. That is on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. If you like this podcast, honestly, you'll be doing me such a favour if you would either like it, subscribe, click that notification bell. I know I sound like a right tosser, but please, because it does help other people find this very organic, very indie podcast. Also, just to say, make sure you keep listening after the interview because I've got a couple of announcements that I want to make. I've been to the US a few times and there's always this phrase that bumbles around in my brain and it says, in America, 100 miles is nothing, but 100 years is everything. And for us, 100 miles is like massive, but 100 years is nothing.
Feels very, very true and aligned, especially just connecting with friends in the UK and being like, oh, I'm only, like for me, I was like, I'm only a 3-hour train ride. I'll just pop on the train down. And they're like, for like a day or two. And they're like, what? You know?
Honestly, it's true.
Going down from Scotland, we drove, from London all the way up. And for us, that 13-hour drive was no big deal because we're used to doing road trips like that. But people are like, you drove, the whole way. It's true. No,
it's just a different way of thinking things. But I love that we have so much culture here. We have so much opportunity to connect to old stuff. Like in our village, there's a church. And part of it goes back to the Norman Conquest, like 1066. And you can see on the side of the church, there's this marker where in Elizabethan times, my village was actually a port, a harbour. And it's like, we're like 10 miles from the coast, but just shows the difference in the land has changed so much in that time that it's recorded on the corner of a church that this is where the water used to be. This is where the level used to be. And it's just like,
wow.
I love it. It's just amazing.
It's incredible. It's just some of the most truly, like I keep saying magical, but imbued with just history and meaning and depth and spiritually. I'm curious how that is for you, but how it influences the way you work and the way you perceive things, because I'm pulling from a personal experience. Like the first time I went to Edinburgh, I could see layers like psychically of times past. And I remember looking at the cars going by and I turned my head and then they turned into like horse and buggy and the streets all changed and everyone was wearing different clothing for just that minute. And I went, I'm perceiving like the layers of a place. And in the States, I'd never had that happen before.
Yeah. It's getting away from your norm, isn't it? It really is. It's also having a chance to look up. Everyone can do this. They can go to their local town and because it's their local town, they know it. They know it inside and out. It's just second nature. But if you were just to stop and look above you, look at the buildings, and they don't have anything special, but suddenly you notice things about them. And you think, oh, okay, I didn't notice that before. Maybe there's a wind vane on the peak of a roof, or the windows are a certain design or something, or they've got stained glass in the window. And it's things like that I love noticing when we're traveling. I mean, when we're away, I take so many photos. Like my phone album is just bursting because I just take so many photos because I'm so curious about what is different. And that is what I also love about mediumship. I'm really curious about what I can get from the other side and what they can bring through, how they use my symbol library. But definitely for me, traveling is just about connecting to what was, and also experiencing different cultures, experiencing different ways of believing or different belief systems. And I wonder with you, Kelsey, did you experience that? Did going through the UK, Croatia, I know Bali as well, did that allow you to open up a different way of thinking about spirituality or a way of your mediumship? How did that work out?
It shifted everything, actually. It shifted me. It shifted what I felt like. Here's the way I will put it. When we live our daily lives in a place we've known or a place we call home, around people we've known, it's beautiful. And until we remember that everyone else on the planet is living their own version of that, we can often think that this is the only way. And so when we go experience other people's versions of that or their day-to-day lives, it reminds us that we have the full co-creation opportunity to live in any way we choose, really. Bali was a very big part of that for me. I ended up staying with a family in one of their traditional homes as they were preparing for a wedding, and seeing and being invited in to help prepare for that. And they were just so lovely and so caring. And what's funny, when you're there, I just felt so much gratitude. You just kind of hands in the middle of your heart space and gently kind of bow to everybody as you meet them or as you go by. And I picked that up. And so I find it really funny, even now being back in the States, when someone has an exchange with me like that, I find myself still bowing in that way and feeling like that actually, even though it's not part of my culture, it was introduced in such a loving way. It feels like something that is really beautiful to bring into life. So yeah, I do think travel changes you, because how can it not, if you're open? So I do know some people travel and it makes them want to stay more concrete in who they are. If you know what I mean by that there's a certain archetype. But I find that if you go in with an open heart and mind, you might just have the very best experience spiritually of your entire life, being around other people who are living their life in a way that feels expressed to them.
Mm-hmm. I also find that when things go wrong,
which they do all the time.
All the time. It's not only an opportunity for you to learn from that and to test your resilience, but also, again, I'm going to keep going back to this concept of symbol library. It's a new experience for you to experience, and it's something you wouldn't necessarily experience in your own home country, in your own hometown. And those emotions, those activities, those things that happen to us when we're away, they allow us to understand more information that comes through. That's how I feel mediumship works, is that they use our frame of reference, they use our experiences to try and indicate how they want to be represented. And the more experiences we have, the better job we can do of that.
You said it so beautifully. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think it's actually now believe for my journey, it's my duty to the work I do and the people I serve to expand that as much as possible through learning different languages, different styles, food, all of it, customs, beliefs. I do think that helps us serve the spirit world in a way that's more expansive. And I actually, if you're open to it, want to spend just a minute sharing about when things go wrong.
Please do.
Yeah. Are you okay?
Absolutely, yeah, because things really go wrong.
I think it's actually one of the most important parts of travel and the way we navigate it, because a lot of times you hear people's highlight reel and it's just not realistic. It's like how you navigate the absolute shit that hits the fan, as we say. And I'm going to give a few examples. So for instance, we've had issues with baggage, with our car. We had like a whole crazy situation with nonstop car things and trying to sell it back. We had, in Bali, I ended up in the hospital and I was there alone. And you can look at those things and go, that's horrible. Or you can look at that and go, I'm learning resiliency. And in the resiliency of this moment, how I show up, how I treat the moment, how my energy is, how my mindset is, and spiritually, how I'm open to guidance about learning, can actually help me be a better human, a better frame of reference if you let it. And I also think it teaches us where our areas for growth are. If I notice, if it's a stress-inducing situation or you're reactive, or maybe it's triggering some shadowy parts or some little inner child of needing safety and protection, that got triggered a lot for us when we were traveling, because I feel like I always say to my husband, I feel like our 7-year-olds came out all the time and we're very busy because we wanted safety and security and we had pretty much zero of that. And so I find the dynamics of that can be really telling and really helpful in expanding. But I'm curious how that is for you too, because stuff just, it never goes as planned. My best set expectations, it's pretty much the deviation of the farthest further away point of that.
Would you share an experience that you have had that has made you more resilient, and how has that translated into your spirituality?
There's a few coming through. The first one that came through isn't the one I would choose normally, but I feel like it came through, so I'm going to share it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just the one that feels the most strange and interesting. It's not very deep or dark, but it's just this one that's standing right in my consciousness. We purchased a car in the UK thinking we would stay indefinitely or for years. So we had purchased this car, and then 6 months later, we had to figure out how we got the car. But I want to take you back to how this all unfolded, because I find it really, really important to share the intuition. We had found a car online that was a great fit for us. And so we flew my husband from the Highlands down to London, and he took the train to go look at the car. And as he was there about to start talking about the purchase process, I intuitively heard, "Don't do it. This isn't the car for you." So I texted him and I said, "You have to walk away from the car." And he texted me back a few minutes later, "I know, look what I found," that they didn't disclose. And so we had spent a lot, money, time, resources flying him down there. So he got back on the train, had a great day, solo day in London, eating his way through the city, came back up on the overnight sleeper. And I said, "I'm going to just wait till I hear that's the one." So I'm online looking, and I hear that's the one. So we buy it. Someone delivers it to our house through one of those online sites. Never done that before. And I thought, it's so interesting. So fast forward 6 months, and we're like going to try to sell the car. And the odometer from what they had recorded for people maybe who don't know about the MOT process, they had recorded it in kilometers instead of miles and made it ineligible for us to sell. And so what ended up happening is the company just took the car back, and we got our money back. So we had this beautiful car for 6 months. We just paid for the mileage we owned. They took it back and realized they had to fix that mistake, and we couldn't fix it. And we didn't have to go through trying to sell a vehicle and moving. And had we gone with the first car, had I not listened, that was such a strange and random experience. We had to be very resilient, and it was stressful and chaotic, but we had to go, okay, there's a reason this is happening. There's a reason we have this specific car, and there's a reason that the odometer's wrong, and there's a reason that, they're just going to take it back. How did that impact my spirituality? Intuitively, I had to really trust. It's one thing to say it out loud. It's one thing to get on the internet or be in practice and say, I follow my intuition. But to live it requires a certain type of audacity and self-trust. And that experience taught me that, I am meant to listen. And this is exactly why this unfolded the way it did. So this is very strange.
What did your husband find? What put him off the first car?
So in the car itself, they said it had not been in an accident, but there were signs that it may have been in an accident. And then on the top, the entire paint job had this strange cover over it. Like it had this strange modeling happening with the paint bubbling up. And we are very conscious of mold and those type of things. And then they did disclose when he asked about it that it had been sitting out in an area that had been close to, I believe, some sort of factory or something, and maybe had some leaks as well.
Yeah, no.
That they didn't disclose.
Best leave that one back on the forecourt.
And it looked beautiful online and perfect and wonderful. And but it wasn't super easily to the eye. You just really had to look to find it. But I was so grateful in that moment that we just both knew, right?
And that's not an experience you would necessarily have had if you just stayed at home, or at least the stresses that go with that of having to negotiate a car purchase in a different country, different tax system, different MOT system, different insurance system, difference of the road.
Oh, the difference of the road, all of it. And the insurance, right? There's not very many people who will insure they call it expat, but immigrant insurance if you don't have a driving record. in the UK. So just trying to even navigate that and drive around. I remember we couldn't drive the car. We didn't have a car and we weren't near public transportation. So I had walked into town. It was a mile into town to do some things. And then I had decided I'm tired of walking this back road. So I got on Facebook Marketplace and I looked for bicycles and I found this purple butterfly bicycle. And I messaged them and they said, oh, my dad's available. You can come walk to our house now and pay us, do a bank transfer and pick it up. And so I remember pulling up to our little area and my husband's like, you left on foot and you arrived back on a purple butterfly bicycle because we couldn't drive the car yet. And I just, I laugh at all of that. Like, those are not things you do at home.
No.
I just don't think.
No.
And I remember sitting in the living room with this beautiful Scottish family, and they were just like joking with each other and then joking with me, and everyone was having a laugh. And they're like, my dad's back out in the shed and he's tuning up the bike for me and all these things. And it was just the most delightful experience to have. It was so random.
Something that would never have happened. And again, opens up your frame of reference to something which you would have experienced otherwise. Yeah, amazing. I'm wondering, I said to you as we opened this conversation, you are the most calming influence on me, at least, because I was very stressed before this, but you are very calming yourself. I wonder, when it comes to your grounding practices or any sort of spiritual routines, how did they change on your travels? And I suppose also beforehand, if were they even important to you beforehand?
Yeah, so they were important beforehand, but I do think there's this thing that happens. Well, it's happened in my journey. I've heard it talked about in other people's journeys as well, where we get caught in this like spiritual perfectionism, where like I have to do it this way or this routine, or I have to wear. For me, it was like this whole phase of wearing white linen more than I needed to.
Love it.
Or like, I have to pull a card today, or the have-tos, right? But when you're traveling, there's no spaciousness for have-tos. It's only what you can do. What feels good? What can I bring into the moment? And so my spiritual practices went from needing to be like, hit the yoga mat and do all these things to like, what can I do in a single breath? What can I do in a single moment? Can I light a candle? Can I sing a song? Can I dance with my child in the living room? Can I do a 5-minute walk in the wind before bed and sit with my hands on my heart and just breathe? And they became attuned to the moment instead of a ritual and routine that had to be followed. So they changed completely.
I love that. I love the way that you bring up the expectation. Not the expectation. I think that's more my word. You have this routine going on and then you're traveling and you're in this different moment and you've just got to switch. You've got to switch things up and you've got to maybe even not do things. I remember when I went to Thailand last year, I thought, it's going to be amazing. Thailand and Cambodia, temples everywhere, Buddhist monks are, it's going to be so zen, it's going to be amazing. And it was, but I didn't have 2 seconds to have to myself because it's so chaotic and so frenetic everywhere. And you've got to go into yourself and you've got to ground yourself in a different way. And I found the way that I grounded myself was visiting temples, but not having a moment of quiet, but just observing everyone else there, and everyone is there for the same reason, and realizing that actually everyone here is connected. We're all connected. You don't necessarily get that. I don't get that here. I just found that really interesting. I love it. But yeah, the rituals and the grounding processes can be very different, can't they?
Yeah, they really can. And mine evolved from sitting in stillness to movement, like dancing and moving, like just swaying in the wind, or chasing after a laughing child and just taking in the laughter. That felt more like the being in the moment and feeling grounding was actually something I've probably been searching for my whole life, if I'm being honest.
I love that. And have you taken that back home with you?
I have, and I'm grateful to have the awareness to be able to do that. It started in Scotland, but something shifted in Croatia. We didn't have a car, so we were on foot everywhere, backpacks to get groceries, and it was like a 20, 30-minute walk to the restaurants in the old town. And just walking, as a family, hand in hand, knowing that it's going to take 3 hours to accomplish dinner out, and being so present because you have no other option. It's you and the sea and the walk and the people around you and the lights in the distance, knowing you're eventually going to arrive there, and doing that all with a very tired and sometimes often cranky 5-year-old. It changes you. And I'm grateful to bring that back to the States because I feel a little resilient and bubbled up from the chaos that surrounds me. I don't feel like I have to be part of it anymore.
Oh, I like that. I like the, do you feel like you can disconnect because there's another reality out there?
Yeah, it is a bit of disconnect. And it also feels like we create our reality bubble in our home. And so you can go out into that and be under fluorescent lights in a shopping center. And then you can come home and know that the reality you've created in your own space, it will always exist as you nurture it. And when you step back into it, it's like being transported back to another time and place almost.
Yeah, absolutely. You've answered all my questions. I love it. It's thank you so much for coming on, Kelsey. Is there anything you want to share with the dear listeners about your thoughts of whether it be travel or intuition? The floor is yours. What would you? Is there anything you'd like to say? And if you don't, that's fine. But if you would, then it's yours.
Oh, thank you. It's been such a delight. I've felt very calm in this conversation, and I always love how the themes and energy of a conversation emerge between two people. It's actually one of my greatest joys in life is to have these conversations and meet someone halfway across the world just to explore and dive into whatever comes up. But I do feel the bubblings up of a message, so I'm going to just do what we do in mediumship and start talking before I know what I'm actually going to say.
Absolutely.
And we'll see what comes out.
Go for it. Go for it.
Around travel, I would just feel the necessary words to say, or what's really coming through is that make it your own. Sometimes we're taught what a holiday looks like. We're taught what a trip is supposed to look like. And if it looks like one night in a tent in a field overlooking a castle and you're half miserable and half happy, maybe that's what the delight of travel looks like for you. Maybe it's stepping out into the sunshine or doing something a little different in your day-to-day, because it doesn't have to be this big grand thing, and it can be, but it can also be something so accessible and so small, because that one thing can just completely change everything you've known about your life or that moment. And follow your intuition when you're in the travel. Like if you're in it and you've had this master plan in your mind, but in the moment you think, I want to go sit in that place, or I want to stop at this bench. Oftentimes it's because you're about to witness something that you would have missed otherwise, or be part of something beautiful, or watch that bird that will emerge over the river. And when we trust that, we actually get to experience a different aspect of ourselves and our reality. So just really reminding you that you are co-creating that experience, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says around that. And when it comes to day-to-day life, I always like to leave it with this just vast expansiveness of love, and the reminder that at any moment, even if you feel disconnected, even if you feel like it's an absolute day that's just going, not your way, there is always a way to come back to the joy of life, to your center, especially if it's not perfect. Place your hand on a tree, walk out and let the rain hit your face and dance a little bit. Whatever it takes to remind yourself that you're human, you're alive, and you have the distinct and beautiful pleasure of being alive in any given moment. It can shift you from where you were to maybe a place that feels more loving, and you are always, always loved. Your spirit team, your guides, your loved ones in spirit, they have your back. And when we move through life that way, we often realize that there is a vast, endless well of love, magic, and experience waiting for us at every turn.
Absolutely beautiful. Well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where can the listeners find you?
Yeah, they can find me on podcast, Soul Threads, on Kelsey Anderson Intuitive. That's all my handles and my website, and also now on YouTube. And I just so love connecting. So really, anybody who feels called to connect or listen or learn or just tune in for a moment, I feel like it's such a joy.
I will put all of that on in the show notes. If anybody wants to reach out to you, then they know where to. Are you doing readings at the moment? Are your books open?
Yeah, they are. I open them about 30 days in advance. So there are sessions every week that I open up, and you can just keep an eye out for those coming in. And good. I love that.
Where are you off to next?
That's a great question. Well, I've been toying around with coming back to the UK here pretty soon for maybe another residential week with some great teachers there. Probably potentially Bali again this year. And in Montana, we have so much nature here and lakes and mountains. I think for us, the everyday of getting out into the woods with the mountain lions and the bears and all of the other creatures.
Yeah. Take your bear spray with you.
Take our bear spray. We're not in Scotland anymore where we don't have to worry about that.
The squirrels bite where you are.
They do. They do bite where we are. A little feistier. But I can feel myself being called back over that way, and different places, but the same places all the same.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kelsey. I wish you all the luck and love in your travels. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you. You as well.
The wonderful, the incredible Kelsey Anderson, everyone. How did you find that? I so admire Kelsey's pure conviction in just trusting her intuition and following her guiding star. We've done it a couple of times, and it's just amazing to see where life takes you, just to have that trust in wherever you're going to go is going to be okay. Okay, during the break, I said I've got a couple of things to say. Just future Matt talking here. So in the interview, you'll have heard Kelsey talk about her podcast, Soul Threads. Kelsey has actually changed the name of her podcast from Soul Threads to Reclamation. All the show notes are correct. So if you're not sure where to look or how to find it, just look in the show notes. You will find all the details for Kelsey's amazing podcast. I even appear in one of the episodes, and I'm have to say, this episode that I appear in on her podcast, Reclamation, I'm so happy with it. I'm so proud of it. I love the conversation that me and Kelsey have. If you want to hear more from Kelsey, then me and Kelsey, or is it Kelsey and I? I'm not sure. Either way, Kelsey and I are going to be doing a TikTok live together. This is going to be on Thursday, the 28th of May, so a week after this episode officially releases. If you're in America, that is 11:15 in the morning, PST, 12:15 midday, Mountain Standard Time, 2:15 Eastern Standard Time, or if you're in the UK, that is 7:15 in the evening. So if you have any questions that you want to put to Kelsey, make sure you get on your TikTok at 2:15, whatever one of those hours are for you, and get online and ask your question. The other thing I wanted to say was that you may have seen on my Instagram, on my TikTok, I am holding a Sunday afternoon practice. If you are in development at the moment, and I want to stress that if you're in development, this is not a teaching space that I'm offering, but if you are in development and you want to practice your mediumship skills, your tarot reading skills, your oracle card, your psychic abilities, whatever it might be, you want to practice it, I'm hosting a free 1 hour, 15-minute space online where you can come and you can practice one-on-one with other people. I've been running it for a few weeks now, and it's a lovely space. The people that come, they're really welcoming, they're really gentle. It's a really lovely environment. So if you want to practice the modality that chimes with you, then you are more than welcome. That is going to be going on at 7:15 UK time. Again, you can work that one out wherever you are in the world, whatever that means to you. But UK time, 7:15 PM to about 8:30. So about an hour and 15 minutes. If you want something a bit longer, on Wednesday evenings, I will also be holding a very similar event. This one will be for 2 hours though. So come along, 7:15 to 9:15 PM UK time on Wednesday evenings. Not only will that be focusing on one-on-one readings, but it will also be focusing a bit more on platform as well. There's no pressure for anyone to do it if they don't want to, but it is a space for you to come and practice, and I would love to see you there. The next guest that I've got on is the wonderful Anthony Light. If you don't know about Anthony, go and search him out. He is on for the very exciting Pride episode, and he talks a lot about his upbringing, his childhood, and the impact that religion and his sexuality had on his spirituality. So it's a really in-depth and lovely conversation. Have a wonderful rest of your day, you wonderful explorer, and I will see you soon. Take care, guys. Bye.